In 2024, 90% of organizations reported using content marketing. And according to the New York Times, content marketing actually costs around 62% less than traditional marketing channels. And of these leads, they are actually 6 times as likely to convert, which I found crazy when I was reading that. Gabe, what's your take on that, and what makes content marketing such a successful strategy recently?
Yeah, with content marketing, it's the valuable outcome. Like it's way cheaper and it's way more effective because it's the intention and approach of serving and educating your audience first and letting them buy when they're ready. Whereas, paid advertising, very effective too. We have clients that do really well there as well. It should be a mix ultimately. But when you take the approach of like answering the questions that you hear from your customers and clients, all the time, and putting that type of content out in your articles, your emails, your videos, all of that, then you're pre-explaining the process, you're pre-explaining the solution, the value that's being achieved. And when people get to consume things on their own time, then they get to really sit with that, understand it, dig more in, dig I don't even know what I want to say there. They get to understand the process and really understand who you are as a company.
Yeah.
And they can go deeper, and really understand, more about you. And so when they're learning and consuming kind of on their own time, trust is elevated a lot faster than if it's just a brand new ad that's popped in front of them. There's a different approach and strategy to make that work. But yeah, content marketing has been very successful for us and for our clients for many years.
Definitely, yeah. Content marketing is realistically, it's one of the most powerful tools that you have at your disposal as a business owner if you want to grow the business, right? But what's important to remember is it's all too easy to make mistakes, right? And that's what we're going to talk about today is the 5 top, content marketing mistakes that we see in the industry, because there's a lot of things that are really good for content marketing and some things that you'd like to avoid. But before we get into it, of course, you guys know me. I'm your host, Nathan Gibson, again with Gabe Arnold. He's back at it again with us today. And so if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe. We always love to make new friends over here at BME, and we put out a new episode every Friday. And we also do the same thing on our newsletter as well. So we'd love you guys to check that out. But let's get into it, Gabe. So let's talk about some content marketing mistakes, right? Because there's a lot of things that are positive and negative about, everything in business. The one that is like kind of overarching that I see all the time is not understanding your audience enough. What's your take on that, Gabe?
Yeah, it's easy to kind of confuse ourselves or get distracted when we hear content marketing because that is the accurate right term. But what we're putting out there in marketing should be educational marketing that solves the problems of our prospects and our soon-to-be customers.
Yeah.
So if you just say, oh, I need to send an email to send an email or post on social to post or, write a blog post just to do it, then you're going to miss the whole point of the exercise. The exercise of content marketing is to think about what you've done in the last few days, last few weeks, last few months, whatever context helps you, and ask yourself, like, what questions did our customers ask? What problems came up for them? How do we solve this? And then to publicly display how you serve and help people.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's easy just to get distracted and just do something for the sake of doing it, and then there's not the right value and intention and work you put into it. And you can also get too fancy, too complex with what you're putting out there. I have a friend in the fitness space, and he posts great content consistently and says, here's what my client came to me when they were struggling to lose weight or get strong or solve their fitness need. Here's the process I took them through. This is the result they got. That is the simplest form of content marketing, is like, this is where my customer started. This is how they came to me, and this is what I asked them, or suggest or help them do. This is the result they got. Like, that's a really simple structure of you basically just want to give people like an insider view to what it's like being in your business, working with you or using your products or your services.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, right? Because with your example with the fitness guy, he couldn't have created that content without understanding, what resonates with his target audience and what they care about. And so in my experience, and especially with the team, there's a couple of ways you can go about fixing that, right? And of course is the one our longtime listeners will know, market research, right? We won't dive too deep onto it, but market research is incredibly important. The ways you can go about that is surveying your customers, always check your analytics. and learn their pain points, their language. What kind of languaging resonates. There are certain words or verbiage or even imagery that resonates with those sort of people. The more you understand your audience, the better you're going to be able to speak to them, right? It's really as simple as that.
Yep.
Um, but another really big one too, and we see this across multiple areas of business, and that's focusing on quantity over quality. I almost missaid it, but focusing on quantity rather than quality. More content doesn't always mean more results, right?
Yeah, I think when it comes to like the type of entrepreneurs, business owners we work with, it's important to remember and differentiate that we are providing a product or a service to our customers, our clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we are not entertainers. We don't need to go viral. We don't make money by how many people view our post or watch our video, or we don't make money from that. We're not TikTok creators that are just entertaining people and they get paid on views. That's
Right.
not what the majority of people, that we work with are in the space of. So it's important to put out something very valuable and then promote that a lot
Yeah.
rather than worry about posting twice a day or like being super aggressive, because then the quality of what you're putting out there can drop unless you hire us. We can do tons of stuff for you, or if
Sure.
you have a internal team, that's great. But even when we work with our clients, there's plenty of clients where we say, if you post every other day on social media, and we'll help you do that, then people are going to learn about who you are, how you solve problems, what your product does, what your service does. And so it's not about volume, it's about really putting something out there that, educates people and solves their problem or shows them how to solve their problem effectively with your products or services, or with other, things that you can suggest them they don't even have to buy from you. So they begin to trust you and go, oh, Nathan is the authority on this. He knows how to solve this. He works with business owners every day. So of course, like, I'm going to just trust and follow them. And then at some point, their problem will get big enough, their pain will get big enough, or the existing solution they have isn't going to work anymore, and they'll go, "Oh, Nathan's the guy I'll talk to." So
Yeah.
you post, tons of content. You just need to post something that is actually really useful.
Yeah, and two things really come up for me on that note when it comes to posting quality content, and that is being strategic and consistent, right? The
Mm-hmm.
more strategic your content is, you're not going to be just throwing content out there, right? You're going to create content that really resonates with people. And then as you do that more and you think about it more strategically when you're posting and you get more consistent over time, you're going to start to really build your brand. Because nobody starts, with 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 followers, right? They start from zero. Everybody does. And the more that you are posting, messaging that resonates with your brand, getting in front of the people that matters to, the more traction you will get over time. It kind of compounds on itself. And you can't do that without being strategic. And so that's my piece of advice for that, is focus on being strategic and consistent. Um, the next one we have is a big one for a big part of our team, and that's don't ignore SEO best practices. It's easy to do that, but creating content is really only half the battle, right? If nobody sees it, it's not doing you any good, right, Gabe?
Yeah, and so being aware of like what the people in your audience are searching for when they're trying to find that solution. That's where like keyword research, what are the search phrases, what are people are talking about, and then also join communities of people. Look on Reddit, get
Yeah.
in the Facebook groups, go to big LinkedIn groups, find where people are talking about trying to solve this problem, because then you'll see exactly the questions they ask, which will help you write valuable content. And then in addition, a great way to promote it, which will help you directly promote it and also will, trigger higher search over time as well, is if I see somebody asking, what's the process or best way to design, a website that's really going to appeal to your audience and that will attract the right customers, then if I create a video or write a post about that, I can go back and say, hey, just here's a guide to this question. Yes, you can comment, you can give it to them, you can send it to them. So you can directly interact with people that are looking for solutions. And when you're actually reading the direct questions or seeing what people are talking about, you can respond specifically to one person about their problem, and that elevates your content. Because sometimes I was just speaking at an event earlier this week, and sometimes when we think about writing content or putting something out there or branding or doing any of this content marketing, we get caught in the mindset of like, I'm writing for a bunch of people to read this. That's often will water down what we write or create
Yeah.
in any type of content. it's more effective to think of a specific customer that we have that we know is a good fit for our business, or we find somebody that wrote that long question and we just write the answer to them. That elevates the quality of our content in most cases.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I said, creating the content is only half the battle. If people got to be able to see it. And so a couple of like more granular tips that I have from specifically the SEO side of it is keyword research, right? We hear that phrase thrown around a lot in the marketing and business owning world, but it's important. You got to find the terms and phrases that your audience is searching for. So my recommendation is to definitely optimize your content for search engines without compromising on readability. That's kind of the key, because it has to be accessible to people. So the ways that you can do this is include relevant keywords, proper headings, and link to valuable resources, things that actually matter to these people, which goes back to our first topics too. It has to be high quality. So yeah, guys, definitely don't ignore your SEO. It's definitely very important. Hand in hand with that, we have, not having a clear call to action, or CTA, as a lot of us know. You have to have a clear CTA. Every piece of content should always have that to guide the reader towards the next step. Because otherwise, you're not taking advantage of that content, right?
Yeah, ultimately, like there's different levels of those calls to action, but it is like, what is the next step that will help that person in their journey? So some of your calls to action will be like, shoot us a message, call us, message me, click here to contact us, whatever it be. That's where you want them to take action when they're farther down the journey. You've been in front of them for a while. They're bottom of the funnel is what we say in the marketing world, right?
Right.
But other times the call to action is, now that you understand the basics of how to solve this problem, click here to see a step-by-step guide, or get this checklist, or do the next thing. Like, it's what is going to move that person forward in their journey and finding a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
So there are times where that's going to be contacting you or buying a product. There's other times where it's like, man, if you really like this and this was helpful, I'd encourage you to go deeper and read this post that we wrote, or get on, download this resource. Like, it's not always just directly to a sales call to action per se.
Right.
But it is like, what's the next step in their journey that's going to help them be successful?
And I think that's so important, because we talk about funnels, right? Top, middle, bottom of funnel. We talk about that all the time in marketing, and you guys can check out some of our episodes to dive deeper on that. But the person who just found out about your brand is likely not going to buy the same day. They have to engage with the brand, see more of your content, get familiarized, look up reviews if it's, commerce based. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I think that, like what you said is very important. There's different types of CTAs. And so the more you understand about your audience, the better you can match those CTAs to where they're at in the funnel. Like, top of funnel, like you said, is like, click to learn more, or download this guide, this free resource. Middle of funnel is like reviews, testimonials, like, check out this page where we have real examples of this product or service in action. And then the bottom is, click here to buy. Like, click here so I can share this with you, book a call with me. And there's different ways you can do that, right? Like, get creative, test CTA formats, different designs, placements, see what resonates with your audience. Again, anchoring on the more you know about what resonates with them, the better all of your assets will be. We'll talk about that all the time and all day, every day, because it's so important. The more you understand, the better your CTAs are, the better your SEO is, the better your content is. Everything we've already talked about. And so I think that's really important. And one of the final tips I have here is overlooking those analytics and performance metrics. Don't do that, right? Shocker. Don't do that. Without analyzing your metrics, you don't know what's working, and you don't know what's working, what is working, and how to fix the problems that you're having, right?
Yeah, a story comes to mind when we were helping a client who was in the supplement space. They had a great natural weight loss product that they sold. They got amazing results. They had tons of great testimonials, and so we helped them launch a campaign on Facebook to advertise it. And our client initially thought it was doing really well because they were tracking the click through as well. And I was like, yeah, we got great click through, but they weren't getting conversions. And of course, our paid traffic team looked at it and said, well, here's what's going on. Our client was really set on using a picture of a late 30s woman who was in great shape and advertising the product. And I was like, well, that I understand the psychology, that it kind of makes sense, But as we dug into the analytics, we saw that everybody that was clicking off of Facebook was 55 years or older man, and it wasn't for them. So what
Right.
we identified is that this early stat that looked good, we had great high click through rate because the client was stuck on this image, and we were able to come back and say, yeah, you're getting crazy click through rates, but people hit the landing page and bounce off. And we really actually need to change the image so that the actual target market identifies with it better, and we're not attracting these older guys that like looking at a beautiful woman. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's
Sure.
not the of the campaign. So when you really dig into your analytics, you'll see, is this click a valuable click because they're continuing on and the right action is happening, and who's clicking, like what's the demographics that are being clicked and all those things. So ultimately, you definitely need to look at your analytics all the way down
Yeah.
and see what behavior is happening, and then see who those people are as they're moving through the funnel or they're bouncing out of the funnel at a certain point.
Yeah, and the more you know about those analytics, like you said, our team carefully looked through like each one of the portions, right? Engagement, click through, conversions, and they found the missing piece. They found the broken link and were able to take that out and sub it in with something that matches better. They would not have been able to do that if they didn't do literally everything we talked about, right? They looked at the analytics, they checked the CTAs, they also looked at, what's resonating with these people. Is it resonating for the right reasons? Because there was a break in the click-through rate to conversions, right? We wanted them to convert and to continue down the process, but like you said, they may have just been resonating in a different way that wasn't clear. And if you just blindly run your ads every week, or your campaigns, you're never going to know that, right? And so you're going to be missing out on those opportunities of serving people because it's not the right imagery or languaging or wherever the break was. So I think that is an excellent, excellent point. And so I wanted to touch on something here too today, Gabe, and that's to, help people stop of making these really avoidable mistakes with what we have called over the years the simple marketing method, right? And I want to dive just briefly into that. So if you're ready to run, high quality and successful campaigns without making a lot of the common marketing mistakes that inevitably sabotage your results, we have something for you. It's called the Simple Marketing Method. It is a simple course that is the exact system that we use at BME to create effective and results-driven marketing, and it's all broken down into 6 easy-to-follow modules. You'll learn how to do things like craft a marketing strategy based on real data, like we were talking about, not any kind of guesswork. Build a message that really resonates with your audience, and create offers that actually get people to take action. All of the things we talked about today. Over the past 20 years of experience that we have in over, $50 million in ad spend behind us, we've distilled everything down into a super simple course designed for busy business owners. Because as you know, business owners are busy. And because you guys, we love you guys, and you're a listener of the podcast, you will actually get an exclusive 75% off this really awesome course that we have if you use the code SUMMER75 at checkout, which we have linked below. Again, that's SUMMER75. We have that until June 30th, so just about a week more here. So definitely check that out. We'd love to be able to serve you guys in that way with the past 20 years of experience that we have. But Gabe, it would not be an episode of our beautiful show without talking about a win. We have had some really, really great momentum recently, especially with one of our beloved business owners we work with, Mastering Your Menopause. So this week we delivered a website mock-up that genuinely pleased our client with both its copy and its design. This was a really big win for us because they admitted that they're usually hard to impress, right? They're tough selves. They're really good people. They're being too modest, right? But Gabe, a little birdie told me, I'll give you guys a clue, Ashley, we've had her on the show, we love her, that the client emailed you personally to tell you about how much she loved the site. Can you tell me a little bit more about how BME makes this process not only seamless, but just fun to collaborate on?
Yeah, as we, work with our clients, it's obviously, helping them understand the audience they want to serve, doing the market research, but it's also, just as important to make sure that who they are as a person, the leader, the entrepreneur, the business owner, and how they want to serve their audience is really captured. And so, with Mastering Your Menopause, our client there, I'm actually going to read what she said because she was really kind and sent me this note. She said,
She's so nice.
I just wanted to share how pleased and excited I am for the beautiful website. Over the last 20 years, I've hired many, many teams and building many, many websites. And I've never been so happy with the outcome of how beautiful,
Wow.
clean, organized, and on point it was. I just want to express my gratitude for the amazing work, and I can't wait to see what else we do together.
Oh,
Uh, and we get to hear great feedback that like that from our clients frequently, which I'm grateful for, because
me
just our
too.
team that delivers these results is just world class. And it's really about, like I said, understanding who our client wants to serve, and then also understanding who they are, because a brand is about the human, the people, the team behind the company. And so it's really important that we demonstrate and show their personality, their values, their beliefs, and our client, just absolutely loves and wants to serve, and has served for years, the women who are in menopause, and they need love and support and care, and it's a big change in life. And I'm so grateful that our client, experienced, what it was like to really have our team represent that in the design and the copy and everything. So it was a huge one. It was awesome to get that note.
What a great way to end the week, right? I mean, with her experience that she's had with other agencies and other businesses, being able to get that level of feedback from her is just so gratifying, because we work so hard for our clients and we want them to love everything that we do. But that's not reality. Some things aren't great, but for it to be so seamless and so smooth and to get that kind of feedback is just so amazing for our team. And so if anybody internally watches it, hats off to you. But on that note, Gabe, we will wrap this up. Guys, if you like the video, throw it a thumbs up for us. It helps us out a lot. You can also share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We put out a new episode each and every Friday, and we would love to have you guys join the family. And again, if you guys want a team of dedicated experts to work around the clock for your business success, click the link in the description below and you can book a chat with me, and I would love to have a conversation with you about your business. And finally, I wanted to say one more time that if you guys would like to hear tips like we had in the bulk of today's episode, we have our free newsletter where we put out these tips, resources, and strategies to help you grow your business. Gabe, it is a pleasure as always, and we will see all of you next Friday.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.